Have you ever found yourself torn between the safety of solitude and the terrifying possibility of love? What happens when a single mother's carefully guarded heart begins to open again, despite all her fears? This is a story about finding courage in the most unexpected places and discovering that sometimes the greatest risk is not taking one at all. I smoothed my sari one final time, my hands slightly unsteady. The morning had been a whirlwind. Kieran had forgotten his science project was due today, and now the elevator in our apartment building was broken. I sighed, gathering my courage as I stepped into the humid Mumbai evening air. "Everything all right?" a voice called from the balcony above. I looked up to see Ravi, my upstairs neighbor, leaning over the railing. He wore a paint-splattered kurta and held a cup of chai, his kind eyes reflecting genuine concern. If you're enjoying this heartwarming story of love, courage, and second chances, please hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more beautiful stories like this one. My name is Amara, and this is the story of how I learned that love doesn't always come when we're ready for it, sometimes it arrives when we need it most. "The elevator's stuck again," I said, glancing at the heavy bags of groceries at my feet. "Third floor feels impossible today." "Let me help," Ravi offered, already heading toward the stairwell. His tone was respectful, never presuming. I hesitated, then nodded gratefully. Ravi appeared moments later, effortlessly lifting my bags. "Festival preparations?" he asked, noticing the marigolds and sweets among my groceries. "The Wali is next week," I replied, following him up the stairs. Kieran's been counting down the days. Within minutes, Ravi had carried everything to my door. I reached for my purse, but he waved me off. "Neighbors help neighbors," he said simply. "Besides, I remember my mother doing the same preparations. It takes a village." That evening, as I arranged rangoli patterns on my floor, I found my thoughts returning to him. He seemed genuinely kind, but life had taught me to be cautious. Trust had led to disappointment before. Days passed, and our encounters became more frequent. Each time, Ravi greeted me with warmth, never overstepping boundaries. One afternoon, as I read on my balcony, I heard excited chatter from the courtyard below. Kieran's cricket bat had cracked, and there was Ravi, kneeling beside him, carefully taping it back together. "Press here gently," Ravi instructed patiently. "Now try a swing." The bat held firm, and Kieran grinned widely. "Thanks, Uncle Ravi." I couldn't help but smile. "That was incredibly thoughtful," I said when Ravi glanced up. "Kieran reminds me of myself at that age," Ravi replied. "Always breaking things, always eager to fix them." Something about Ravi's gentleness with my son touched me deeply, yet it unsettled me too. I'd learned to be wary of men who seemed too good to be true. Weeks later, during the height of monsoon season, I found myself overwhelmed. Work deadlines, household responsibilities, and the constant pressure of single motherhood weighed heavily on my shoulders. During a crowded Ganesh festival celebration, the noise and press of people became suffocating. My chest tightened, my breathing shallow. "Amara," Ravi's voice cut through the chaos. He gently guided me to a quieter corner of the temple courtyard, his presence calm and steady. "Focus on my voice," he said softly. "In through your nose, out through your mouth." I closed my eyes, following his guidance until my breathing returned to normal. When I opened them, Ravi's face held only compassion, no judgment, no questions. "Thank you," I whispered. "Always," he replied, his smile reassuring. That night, as I tucked Kieran into bed, my mind wandered back to Ravi's steady presence. I couldn't deny the warmth blooming in my chest, yet fear held me back like an invisible chain. As the weeks turned into months, Ravi's presence became a quiet comfort. He never pushed for more than friendship, yet somehow he was always there when needed, helping carry groceries during the monsoon, offering a warm smile during school pickup, sharing stories about his travels as a documentary filmmaker. One Saturday morning, I heard laughter from the courtyard. Looking down, I saw Ravi teaching Kiran to play tabla, his hands guiding my son's small fingers across the drums. "You have natural rhythm," I said when they finished their lesson. "My grandfather taught me," Ravi replied. "Music is a language that connects all hearts." I smiled, feeling grateful but uncertain. Ravi was creating a place in Kiran's world, and that both warmed and terrified me. The following weekend, Ravi appeared at my door with a wrapped package. "I found this at the book market and thought Kiran might enjoy it," he said, revealing a beautifully illustrated book about Indian mythology. "You shouldn't have," I protested. "I wanted to," Ravi said simply. Later that evening, as I watched Kiran eagerly reading the stories, I couldn't ignore the growing feelings in my heart. Ravi's kindness extended beyond polite gestures. He genuinely cared for both of us. Yet doubt crept in like shadows at dusk. My divorce had left deep scars, reminders that love could shatter even when it seemed unbreakable. One evening after a particularly difficult day at the advertising agency, I found Ravi sitting on his balcony, sketching the city skyline. I paused before calling up to him. "Long day?" he asked, setting down his pencil. "The longest," I sighed. "Clients, deadlines, everything piling up." "I understand," Ravi said. "Would you like some company?" I just made fresh filter coffee. We sat on his balcony, the city lights twinkling below us. The comfort of shared silence felt more healing than any conversation. "Can I ask you something?" I finally spoke. "Why are you always so patient with everyone?" Ravi smiled thoughtfully. "After my father's accident, I learned that everyone carries invisible burdens. I try to make them a little lighter when I can." His words resonated deep within me. I knew that feeling, the weight of carrying everything alone. A week later, during a hurried trip to the spice market, I bumped into Ravi at the vegetable stall. After greeting each other warmly, Ravi noticed my basket, filled with instant foods and processed snacks. "Everything okay?" he asked gently. I forced a smile. "Just busy, taking shortcuts." Without a word, Ravi helped me select fresh vegetables and showed me quick, healthy recipes his grandmother had taught him. "These take the same time but taste like love," he said, grinning. That simple gesture moved me more than grand romantic gestures ever could. He wasn't trying to impress me, he simply wanted to make my life better. That night, as I cooked the meal Ravi had suggested, the kitchen felt warmer, more alive. Like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't shouldering everything by myself anymore. I could no longer deny my feelings. Ravi's kindness, his understanding, it had awakened something I'd thought was buried forever. But with those feelings came overwhelming fear. I began creating distance. When Ravi waved from his balcony, I offered only brief smiles before hurrying inside. When Kiran asked if Uncle Ravi could join us for lunch, I changed the subject. One evening, Ravi knocked on my door. I hesitated before opening it. "Have I done something to upset you?" he asked softly. "No," I said quickly, my voice faltering. "I just need some space." "I understand," Ravi said, though disappointment flickered in his eyes. "But you know where to find me if you need anything." Weeks passed, and I convinced myself I was protecting both myself and Kiran. I threw myself into work, into parenting, into anything that kept my mind busy. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't forget Ravi's gentle laughter, the way he taught Kiran to play tabla, the comfort of our conversations under the stars. One evening, Kiran asked quietly, "Did I do something wrong, Mama? Uncle Ravi doesn't visit anymore." My heart broke. "No, beta," I said, stroking his hair. Uncle Ravi is just busy." But Kiran's words haunted me. That night, I sat alone on my balcony, wrestling with emotions I'd tried so hard to suppress. I knew I cared for Ravi, not just for his kindness, but because he understood me in ways few people ever had. Yet fear held me prisoner, fear of judgment, fear of pain, fear of risking Kiran's happiness. The next afternoon, I found Ravi watering plants on his balcony. Gathering my courage, I called up to him. "Can we talk?" We met in the courtyard garden, surrounded by jasmine and roses. "I've been avoiding you," I admitted. "I was scared." "Of what?" Ravi asked gently. "Of getting too close," I whispered. "Of what people might say. Of getting hurt again." Ravi nodded slowly. "I wouldn't want to make your life complicated," he said. "If you need distance, I'll respect that." "That's just it," I said, tears threatening. "I don't want distance. I just don't know how to make this work." Ravi's eyes softened. "We don't have to figure everything out today," he said. "I just want you to know that I care about you, about Kiran. Whatever this is, we can take it slowly." His words lifted a weight from my shoulders. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to hope. "Slowly sounds perfect," I said softly. As I walked back to my apartment, something inside me felt lighter, as if I'd finally given myself permission to believe in second chances. My sister visited the following week, filling the apartment with familiar laughter and gentle advice. Her words about tradition and family expectations lingered long after she'd returned to Delhi. As much as I cherished my family's values, I couldn't deny what was growing in my heart. And that contradiction terrified me. The next morning, I watched from my window as Ravi tended to his rooftop garden, completely peaceful and unaware of the storm raging inside me. I knew I couldn't keep avoiding the decision that needed to be made. That afternoon, Ravi stopped by with a small gift, a beautiful wooden kaleidoscope. "Kiran mentioned he loves patterns and colors," he said. As I accepted the gift, our fingers brushed briefly. "Can we talk?" I asked. We sat in the courtyard, jasmine petals falling softly around us. "I don't know how to navigate this," I admitted. "My family, their expectations, it's complicated." "I'd never ask you to choose between your family and your feelings," Ravi said firmly. "I know how important your roots are." "But you don't understand," I said, my voice breaking. "They have certain expectations about whom I should be with, what my future should look like." Ravi listened quietly, then said, "Then help me understand. Tell me what matters most to you." Over the following week, that's exactly what happened. Ravi asked thoughtful questions about my family's traditions, showed genuine interest in understanding my world, and never once suggested I should change. One evening, I found him sitting quietly in the temple courtyard during evening prayers, simply observing and learning. When I approached him afterward, Ravi smiled gently. "I wanted to understand what brings you peace," he said. His words stayed with me. For the first time, I felt something stronger than fear, trust in myself and in the possibility of being understood. That weekend, I invited Ravi for dinner. It wasn't elaborate, just simple dal, rice, and vegetables shared with Kiran at our small table. We laughed over Ravi's stories from his documentary travels and Kiran's endless questions about different cultures. As the evening progressed, I found myself watching Ravi, the way he spoke with genuine interest, the way Kiran's face lit up in his presence. I realized love didn't have to mean losing myself. It could mean finding someone willing to understand me completely. When Ravi left that night, he paused at the door. "Whatever the future holds," he said quietly, "I'm grateful our paths crossed." "Me too," I replied, my voice steady. In that moment, I understood this wasn't about having perfect answers or easy solutions. It was about two hearts finding common ground built on respect, patience, and something far stronger than fear. Over the following weeks, Ravi and I settled into a natural rhythm. There were no dramatic declarations or rushed decisions, just small moments that felt right. Ravi would wave from his balcony when I returned from work, and sometimes I'd invite him for evening chai. Kiran, of course, was always delighted to have Uncle Ravi around. One evening, as I prepared dinner, Kiran spoke thoughtfully. "Uncle Ravi makes you smile more, Mama. Like when you used to sing while cooking." His innocent observation touched my heart. Kiran's happiness meant everything to me, but I was beginning to understand that my own happiness mattered too. Later that night, when Ravi called to say he'd be visiting family in Chennai for a few days, I realized how much I would miss him, not just his presence, but the quiet comfort he brought to our daily lives. When he returned, I invited him for dinner again. The evening was simple yet perfect: laughter, stories, and glances that spoke more than words ever could. As Ravi helped clean up afterward, I finally spoke what was in my heart. "I'm scared," I admitted, "but I'm also happy." I didn't think I could feel both at the same time. "We'll figure it out together," Ravi said softly. "I'd like that," I whispered. In the weeks that followed, our bond deepened naturally. I slowly introduced Ravi to my closest friends, carefully letting him into more of my world. Ravi, in turn, made Kiran feel special, never trying to replace his father, just showing up with consistent kindness. One evening, as the three of us sat on the rooftop watching the sunset paint Mumbai's skyline in brilliant colors, Kiran sleepily leaned against Ravi's arm. "I'm glad you're here," he murmured. My eyes met Ravi's, and in that quiet moment, I knew this was real. Love didn't have to be rushed or forced. It could unfold gently, built on trust, respect, and a willingness to grow together. For the first time in years, I felt certain about my future. This wasn't just a passing feeling, it was something beautiful, something worth nurturing. The following weeks brought a peace I hadn't known in years. Ravi's presence was steady without being overwhelming. He seemed to instinctively know when to step closer and when to give me space. One evening, after dinner, we stood on my balcony under a canopy of stars. Kiran had fallen asleep, leaving us in comfortable solitude. "I've been thinking," Ravi said softly. "I know this situation is complex. Your family, your traditions, I want you to know I respect all of that." I looked down, fidgeting with my dupatta. "It's not just my family," I admitted. "It's my own fears too. What if this doesn't work out? What if I'm making a mistake?" "Then we'll face it honestly," Ravi replied. "But I'd rather try and discover the truth than spend my life wondering what if." His honesty was both comforting and challenging. It wasn't a perfect answer, but it was real. A few days later, while picking Kiran up from school, I overheard two other mothers whispering nearby. "Did you see her with that man again?" one murmured. "He seems nice enough, but what about her son?" "Children need stability." I kept walking, pretending not to hear, but the words followed me home. That evening, I let Ravi's call go to voicemail, telling myself I needed time to think. 2 days later, Ravi appeared at my door, concern evident in his expression. "I haven't seen you around," he said gently. "Is everything all right?" I hesitated, then opened my heart. "People are talking," I admitted. "And I keep questioning whether I'm being selfish, whether I'm putting my own happiness before Kiran's stability." "What do you think?" Ravi asked. "Not what others think, what do you believe is right?" It was such a simple question, yet it cut through all my confusion. "I think," I said slowly, "that Kiran deserves to see his mother happy. And I think I deserve happiness too." Ravi smiled gently. Then maybe that's all the answer we need for now. His patience dissolved the last of my resistance. Love, I realized, didn't require perfection or unanimous approval. It just required courage. That weekend, as we sat together on the rooftop garden, Kieran playing contentedly nearby, I leaned back and breathed deeply. I didn't have all the answers yet, and that was okay. I knew this love didn't have to be perfect or approved by everyone. It just had to be authentic, kind, and true to who we all were. And it was.